I bet you're expecting a Metal Gear Solid reference, aren't you? Can't talk about mercenaries without one, right? Well, guess what? Those are overdone. Fuck that noise. Let's talk about Mitchell WerBell. He's a man of 1,000 bullets and is quite literally the archetypal American mercenary, whose body count of toppled governments is surpassed only by the number of firearms in his possession. Mitchell Livingston WerBell III was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on March 18, 1918. He was the child of a recently arrived Tsarist cavalry officer, and, as usual, fuck all is known about his early life other than the fact that he very quickly developed a fascination with war. Granted, in his case, I'd imagine that information is locked under several liters of black ink. That, and he kinda liked being a hee-hee mysterious guy, so he wasn't exactly in a talking mood most of the time. His story doesn't really pick up until 1942, when he joined the Office of Strategic Services following American entry into World War II. Now, the OSS was basically the daddy of the CIA, so already I think you can surmise exactly where the fuck this is going. As a member of this organization, he engaged in all sorts of shady shenanigans, primarily revolving around taking the piss out of the Japanese. He functioned as a guerrilla, fucking around in China, Burma, and Indochina, performing various missions that were, of course, all top secret, so if you wanted details, fuck you. Couldn't find any declassified documents about the guy anyway, so it's whatever. Anyways, his wartime experience gave him a deep fascination with guns, and he got really fucking good with them, which will be important later. When the war ended in 1945, the OSS was disbanded, and WerBell was sort of set adrift. He joined the army for a little bit, but left after realizing commanding organized troops was fucking boring for a guerrilla guy like himself. He was PR director at a department store in Atlanta for a bit before leaving and starting his own PR company. When he was in the United States, Georgia seemingly remained his primary location of residence, since that's where both his company and his estate ended up being. He would never stay in one place for too long, however. The blood and adventure tends to get him all in the end. So what's a hardened soldier trained in guerrilla warfare and espionage to do with his life once his main source of income disappears? Become a fucking soldier of fortune, of course. It's the Cold War, baby, and business is boomin'. Being the son of a white army officer, WerBell naturally fucking despised communism. Oh wow, would you look at the time. Word of warning, a lot of this is gonna use relative dates because as it turns out, a prolific mercenary who is actively cooing governments wants their shit to be kinda protected. A lot of this could also be in the bullshit I made up just to make myself sound cool category, so take everything with a grain of salt. It begins in the 1950s where WerBell served as security advisor to Rafael Trujillo, then dictator of the Dominican Republic. Later in 1959 doing some work for the Batista regime in Cuba. Overall, pretty tame. This is just the warm-up, though. For all of my conspiracy-minded friends out there is information that places him at the fucking Kennedy assassination in 1963. Certain ex-CIA individuals pretty much said that WerBell not only supplied them with silenced weapons to make things discreet without the textbook government red tape, but also had a hand in planning the damn thing as well, and straight up helped carry it out directly. Now, of course, this is taken from first-hand accounts which are notorious for being biased. However, if this is true, it directly implicates both him and the CIA in Kennedy's death, which is just... yeah, I'm gonna stop here before I get ghosted too. Oh fuck, I can hear the black helicopters already. Well, nice knowing y'all, can't wait to commit unalive via 3 bullets to the back of the head. During the 60s is also when his not doing coke with the Central Intelligence Agency life gets actually interesting and worth talking about. He founded a company called Psionics, studies in the operational negation of insurgents and counter-subversion, a company that designed and produced suppressors. And in this he absolutely excelled, with arguably his most famous work being with that of the Armalite family of weapons, which is to say, man's pretty much invented the suppressed M14. Now, I like guns as much as the next guy, but in no way am I a gun guy, so I have no fucking idea how to explain any of this, so I'm just going to lean on existing wisdom. To quote, "What made WerBell's design so different from existing suppressors was the ability to alter the report of the firearm to such a degree that it would be rendered unrecognizable to forces familiar with standard M16 AR-15 family of rifles. Enclosed in a tubular frame, a series of chambers along the inside of the suppressor would act as a method to evenly distribute gases released upon firing. The housing would vary in thickness to help dampen sounds even further. Within the suppression chamber, sets of helical metal baffles redirected the sounds, forces, and energy emitted from the firing rifle, allowing sound vibrations to be absorbed or channeled in a different direction, drastically reducing the output of the action. The use of metal baffles was distinctive from the non-metal materials and wipes commonly used in similar devices at the time. This choice of innovative and non-traditional materials employed in the designs, such as titanium, are still used in standard suppressors. Some WerBell designed suppressors also featured systems of valves, WerBell relief valves, meant to trap, release, and evenly disperse gases that essentially mirrors the functionality found in car exhaust mufflers. WerBell's suppressors were light, easy to configure, and cheap to produce, making them of serious interest and value to the United States military. End quote. Did that make sense? Hopefully it did. Anyways, the point is his company was good at its job, and he basically paved the way for modern suppressor technology. And of course, the guy liked guns. Oh fuck did he have guns. Easily enough to arm a small militia, and some were stupid fucking rare. Psionics would eventually be bought out by the Cobra Company, but WerBell remained prominent, serving as an instructor in various counterterrorism programs for your standard high-profile assholes and CIA spooks. Anyways, back to your regularly scheduled programming. He returned to Hispaniola to engage in some sneaky tomfuckery involving overthrowing the Haitian government of Francois Duvalier on the other side of the island through a false flag and an invasion. It was initially funded by and had the backing of the US government and was supposed to be filmed by CBS as a fun little thing to show the kids back home. However, something changed their minds. The plan was scrapped when the FBI showed up and said, "Alright, show's over, you're all under arrest." WerBell got lucky though, and he was released without being charged. His gaze returned to the Dominican Republic pretty soon after. He was serving as advisor to a different government when the Dominican Civil War broke out in 1965. This time, his planned intervention was actually greenlit, with American troops popping in and telling everyone to calm the fuck down until they did. It's implied that he masterminded pretty much the entire thing. Later in 1972, he was asked by an independence movement in the Bahamas to help them break away from an increasingly authoritarian government, but the group fell apart before he could organize anything. In 1973, he was asked, or I guess he asked, to knock out Omar Torrijos of Panama. Torrijos was popular, but he coincidentally had some authoritarian tendencies and was using the Panama Canal as leverage in trade deals with countries that weren't the US. The horror. This coup also went nowhere since WerBell asked the CIA if he could do it, but they told him to fuck off. It's fine though, because he conveniently died in a plane crash a few years later. During all of this, he was also fucking around in Vietnam and Southeast Asia, doing some arms dealing, selling his weapons and suppressors to anyone who would give him the time of day. Turns out, active war zones, great for business. Coincidentally, also great for killing communists. He was apparently given the rank of Major General by the US Army as a sort of blank check to do whatever the hell he wanted down there, which further adds to his big fuck-off list of connections to governments. It gets better, though. Apparently in 1976, the crazy bastard was arrested with some old OSS buddies for smuggling drugs from Colombia. It says that it was for unknown reasons, but let's be real, it was for the bag and you fucking know it. He was tried for this, however the defense argued its case well, and also the main witness for the prosecution died in a suspicious plane crash, so he was let go. Are you noticing a pattern yet? During most of this, he would also serve on the security detail for a certain Lyndon LaRouche, because why the fuck not? Par for the course at this point. He also claimed to have been hired by Coca-Cola to make some socialist agitators who were threatening their operations in Argentina disappear, along with training the security staff of these operations. Coca-Cola obviously denies this, but these are the guys who use death squads and strikebreakers in Colombia, so I'ma call bullshit. Further down the line, he would also claim to have supplied a shitload of weapons to the Royal Afghan Army, and by extension, probably the Taliban as well, and would follow this up by saying he was either a lieutenant general in the Afghan Army or just straight up the defense minister of the country before the whole Rusky invasion thing. All of this, while likely being the black hand behind several toppled socialist governments, possibly working with a certain talented technocratic totalist for some thematic continuity, training counterinsurgency forces across the globe, and simply not giving a damn what anyone thought. The man got around, to say the least. There's probably a whole lot more that we don't know about, and probably never will know about, since the guy has an unfortunate case of being dead. Most of these events are generally only known about because he himself or somebody close to him brought them up. He was known for keeping shit close to the chest, and in his line of work, I can 100% see why, but working almost exclusively off the books makes any concrete information nearly fucking impossible to attain. But there's one last story that's so completely fucking asinine that I couldn't not include it. In 1983, he was approached by Harry Flint, a certain publisher of a certain Hustler magazine. Apparently, motherfucker was offered $1 million to assassinate Hugh Hefner, Bob Guccione, Walter Annenberg, and Frank motherfucking Sinatra of Playboy, Penthouse, Triangle, and music fame respectively. Yep. Straight up called a merc over and offered money to have his biggest rivals iced. The balls on this man. WerBell had been working for Hustler Security since 1980, so them knowing each other was unsurprising, but fuck if that ain't something else. He never got to act on this, however, as less than a month later he died of heart failure in December of 1983. This would be relatively normal, if not for the fact that he may or may not have been poisoned by his employers at a party, likely in an attempt to take over the Cobra Company. According to this version of events, the assassination plots were so outlandish because they were were never supposed to happen, instead being used as a lure to bait WerBell into a fat paycheck only to bump him off and take over the company. Naturally, this didn't happen. Cobra went essentially defunct later down the line. However, when this was brought up in a completely separate trial over the murder of a completely unrelated individual, it's implied that Flint's ex-brother-in-law straight up admitted to poisoning WerBell. He did pass a polygraph afterwards, but polygraphs fucking suck, so ultimately the real cause of his death remains a mystery. Certainly a fitting twist for a man like him. And that was Mitchell WerBell. Why are the interesting guys always the ones that are secretive and shit? Oh well. A man known for conspiracies dies as part of a possible conspiracy. If that isn't some cosmic fucking irony, then I don't know what is. Next video is going to be Siegfried Muller, since I figured I should do the two mercenaries together for some thematic continuity. That about does it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.